And Chandler is the Executive Director of Tahirih Justice Centre in Houston. Very few of the parents who've had children removed can afford any kind of legal representation. So NGOs like Tahirih try to represent them. As a lawyer and former law professor at the University of Houston, Ann Chandler is among those acting for parents, and she sees them after their children have been removed to who knows where.
Well, when I'm dealing with them, they either have cuffs, they're shackled. It's a misdemeanor to commit an illegal entry, that crime, under our books. And we find it necessary to take these individuals and put them in shackles and throw them into court to have them do these mass pleas. And then when I see them sometimes weeks later, they're in detention centers that aren't shelters in any sense of the world. They're jails. And these are non-contact rooms where attorneys can't even sit face-to-face with the immigrants. Instead, you talk through thick plexiglass, and the parents just ask again and again, how can I talk to my kid? What's happening? What are my rights? And there's very little to say because this is really unprecedented in our law to have this many children taken away from parents who are just here trying to seek asylum.
So their crime, such as it is, and forgive such a pejorative term, is that they are illegal immigrants. That's it, full stop.
That's full stop. I mean, these are individuals who've arrived at our border who traditionally, upon articulating, any type of fear or intention to apply for asylum, they're usually then permitted to apply for asylum. But now, under zero tolerance, the idea is no. Number one, we're going to prosecute you under this crime of illegal entry. And number two, we're taking your children away from you.
And when their children are taken away from them, you are seeing parents who have lost all contact with their children. That is that. Weeks, even longer, have elapsed without any contact with their kids.
That's right. That's right. They were given phone numbers, and most of the individuals, when you look at this phone number in their hands, it's to a number that they can't actually dial from their detention centers. And so many of them have figured out how to connect with family in their home country, but they themselves, not anyone that we spoke to, was able to reach their child or even had firsthand information of where those children are. When we're tracking A numbers and trying to figure out, we see that these kids are being sent all over to the United States. There's over 100 shelters. They're in Minnesota, New York, California, Miami. Likewise, a parent is moved all over to the U.S., sometimes in states, 3,000 or plus miles away.
And what sort of state are the parents in? So they have been detained, they are in these centres, they are shackled, they are cuffed, they can't even sit in a room with their lawyers, and their children are somewhere else in the United States, and they may not even know where that is.
That's absolutely correct. That pretty much, describes the state of affairs. And, we've tracked just kind of since mid-April up to 2,000 children that are taken away from their parents. And, the parents, on the other hand, it's not like anybody in this system gets a free attorney or a free help. They're put under a process called expedited removal, where the general concept here is that you're expeditedly removed. And unless you are effective in explaining that you're terrified to go home to the gang or to the husband that's beating you, you don't get much of a process at all. And if you are successful in accurately articulating a credible fear of persecution, the type of process you get is limited. And often, you get an interview with an asylum officer, but if you don't have the grounds that really fit what that asylum officer is looking like, you may never actually talk to have an attorney able to represent you on the full merits of your case. So many don't have much of a process and don't have much access to an attorney.
What has to happen now to make something that is moderately decent in these facilities?
I think every senator, every representative, every congregation, every individual into the United States needs to say no way This cannot go on. This is not what America stands for. This is not what we're going to do to asylum seekers. And likewise, I think the world community needs to scream out and say, I'm sorry, the Department of Justice. I'm sorry, Jeff Sessions. This isn't the way it works. And, I'm in Houston. It's an oil and gas city. And that's exactly what I'm seeing. I'm seeing rabbis email me. I'm seeing bishops making statements. I see mayors going, what is going on? What are they building in my community? Why are we putting these little kids in baby jails? And so, I think we just need to quickly turn this around.
And Chandler, who was a lawyer, of course, and executive director of the Tahirih Justice Centre in Houston.